In 1928, about the same time Finland started the 600-ton Vetaheinen class, they decided to build an even smaller sub with the totally not unrealistic goal of operating in Lake Ladoga. As per existing treaty, the largest ship that could operate on the lake was limited to 100 tons. As such, she was officially 99 tons surfaced. A 99-ton submarine. No pun intended, but I'll pause while that concept sinks in. A 99-ton submarine. As with her contemporary larger cousins, the German Navy was heavily involved in designing, building, and testing her. In a novel idea, she was actually capable of being disassembled into the stern with the engines, the bow with the batteries, and the sail for railroading overland between Ladoga and the Baltic. Fortunately, this was never done. Operating a sub in a lake in the Arctic. Not surprisingly, she came in overweight by nearly 30%. Despite this, she was still chokingly claustrophobic. There just wasn't enough to work with. Again, the lack of experienced workmen, a strike, material shortages, and winters led to a protracted construction time until German workers were brought in. She had only 2 small torpedo tubes, and they had no reloads. Mines could be carried, but only a few, and they were small. Construction quality wasn't very good. For example, her original engine, not engines, was so bad that in the mid-30s it had to be replaced. Also, her periscope wasn't sealed properly, so it kept fogging up. I could go on, but you get the idea. Again, she never operated as intended in Lake Ladoga, and instead operated in the Baltic, where her small size really hurt her. I'm not trying to take anything away from her crew, but as the saying goes, a cup can't hold a pint. The 130-ton surfaced and 140 submerged-ton Saukko was started in 1928, launched 2 years later in 1930, again 100 tons, 2 years, and completed that same year. Main armament was 2 forward-facing 460-millimeter torpedo tubes for 2 torpedoes. There were no reloads. Up to 9 small 650-kilogram mines could be carried, 3 in the bow tubes. In practice, though, each tube usually contained 1 850-kilogram and 1 650-kilogram mine. Propulsion was provided by 1 diesel engine that produced, on a good day, 170 horsepower to drive the 1 propeller up to 9 knots on the surface and charge the batteries. While submerged, she used her batteries to power the 120 horsepower motor for a submerged speed up to 5 knots. Being so small, she naturally had short legs. At 8 knots on the surface, she could do just 375 nautical miles, or about 2 days. So, pack light. On a fully charged battery, at her most efficient submerged speed, she could do 45 nautical miles, or about 9 hours. Diving depth was realistically 50 meters. Shortly after completion, it was realized she was just too small and unstable to operate in the Baltic. To help this, stability tanks were added outside the hull topside, and ballast was added to the keel. The only real modernization was in the mid-30s when her very troublesome engine was replaced with a less troublesome but still high-maintenance one. This increased her to 200 horsepower on the surface, but due to her small fuel load, didn't appreciably affect her range. Saukko only sailed once during the Winter War, in mid-December 1939, to lay defensive mines near Helsinki. While doing so, she tried to attack the Soviet fleet, but couldn't get in position, so headed back to port. Once the ice took over in mid-January, she was stuck there. During the continuation war, she only sailed a handful of times. Again, she never got in any real attack. The highlight was probably on July 3rd, 1941, when she shot a torpedo at the pier at Somers. This caused the torpedo exhaust to fill the boat, and she was unsuccessfully depth charged for her efforts. Later, her better engine broke down, and she was essentially written off. Post-war, under the peace treaty, Finland renounced submarines, and she was mercifully scrapped.